Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the video series. Today we're doing all the fluids, filters, valve adjustment, valve cover gasket, rear differential service, all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and get started with a valve adjustment. Okay, for a valve adjustment, we're gonna have to take off this valve cover. And so I'm going to have to disconnect some of the linkage here. And to get off the valve cover, it also helps to just unbolt the cruise control module. And then this makes this thing, or the cruise control actuator, and it makes it really easy to lift off the valve cover. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we want to do is just pop off a few of our linkages, because we're going to have to, there we go, pop that off there. We'll just set that over here. This one can actually stay connected right there. And we'll pop off some linkages here. There we go, got that guy off. All right, now we need to undo our linkage, throttle linkage right here, and then we can pull off this valve cover. So there's a little clip right down here. There we go. Slide that clip off. And there is a C-clip right there we want to get off. Now, I've never actually done a valve adjustment on a 10,000 mile car, so I'm wondering what we're actually going to find, because technically it has not reached the mileage required for a valve adjustment. Mercedes says 15,000 miles. In reality, it's like 20,000 miles. But when the engines are new, you know, there's going to be like a break-in period. So they might require valve adjustment a little sooner on a new engine, which that's basically what this engine is. It's a new engine. All right, we got all those clips off. There we go. And then we can take this out. All right, cool. Now, all this is free. All this can stay on the engine. Now we got to take our Bowden cable off of here. And the Bowden cable unclips from right there. There we go. And you pinch this little clip and it slides through. There we go. Right out the back side. Like that. Set that over there. And we want to undo this zip tie and this connector right here. We're going to unplug that's our AC connection line right here. And there's a clip underneath there that comes out. There we go. That is the AC shut off. All right, all that is free. Now we just need to remove this breather hose and then unbolt this and it can come off. Now to do that, these are reusable. You just hold that clip there and we'll take this off right there. And then we can pinch right here and take this guy off. And we're just gonna slide this. There we go, slide that out of the way. Okay, now this valve cover can be lifted off. And guys, the way I like to do it, it just makes it easier. Remove the three 10mm bolts here on the cruise control actuator and just set it to the side. That way the edge of your valve cover does not hit the cruise control module when you're trying to take it off. You don't have to do it that way. I just like to do it that way. Okay, removing the cruise control module. There's just three little 10mm bolts, and then I can move it out of the way and it gives me some clearance over here to the side. That's all you got to do, right like that. Okay, I can see these new, I like to use the brown genuine Mercedes lines here. These are the aftermarket ones. However, I can see that they have recently been changed. So I'm actually going to leave these lines on here because they're fresh. So it's pretty obvious that they were servicing and taking care of this vehicle All right, let's go ahead and undo our valve cover bolts, our nuts. All right, I don't think this has ever been removed from this vehicle. Let me move we're gonna have to take our line out here, which someone installed when they replaced these. They cut that one too short because it is supposed to go over here. So I'm gonna have to pull this line off because it's supposed to run down and tuck underneath here, and it's gonna block us from removing the valve cover. So I'm actually gonna pull this diesel return hose off here and then reinstall one in the correct position. There we go. See, it's supposed to go around underneath there and plug in, but it's gonna be too short for that. So I'm gonna replace it with a good one that's a little longer. Okay, get it around there. Okay, there is the old valve cover gasket that was stuck on there so good. I don't think that's ever been off the car. Holy cow, look how clean it is under there. All right. All right, so the first thing I noticed when I took that valve cover gasket off, look how incredibly clean it is down here. So normally, you know, after 50, 60, 70,000 miles, there's all kinds of like dirt and buildup in that little like crevice right outside the valve cover. And this car is like spotless. I mean, it only has 10,000 miles on it, and it's just amazingly clean. Wow, this is a 10,000 mile motor. Look how clean the cam lobes are. Look at that. They're like bright and shiny. That is pretty cool. So there we go. This cam lobe is in the position we want it to be to check the clearance between the rocker. And so I'm going to go ahead and check that one first. And we're just going to go through them and see which ones need adjusting. Now, there are valve adjustment videos on my channel where I go into great depth and show exactly how to do everything. I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm just going to check a few, and then off camera, I'm going to go ahead and do a complete valve adjustment and then come back and tell you what I found. Okay, the way valve adjustments work, we have a 0.10 millimeter feeler gauge. That's for the intake. And this is a 0.35 millimeter feeler gauge. That's for the exhaust. Now, valve number 7, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is what we're going to test. And that is an intake. So that should have 0.10 millimeters of clearance. Oh, wow. Okay, that's perfect. All right. So at 10,000 miles, we need 0 adjustment on that valve. And there's not going to be an adjustment anytime soon. It's literally in perfect adjustment. So let me flip it around. The next one we're going to want to check. The way you check them, you want your cam lobe. See how that one was like 12 or 1 o'clock position? That way the bottom, the rounded base, which looks like that, is on the rocker arm. That's where you check your clearance. The next one that's about to be in position is this one right here. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And number 5 is an exhaust. So the exhaust is going to be a 0.35 measurement. So I'm going to put a socket on the crank. We're going to rotate the engine just a little bit until this comes up to the 12 to 1 o'clock position, and we're going to test that one. Okay, you can see I've got this rotated around, and that's an exhaust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an exhaust, and we have our 0.35 feeler gauge. Let me get this down in there. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's in perfect adjustment. So either someone did a valve adjustment on here, or at 10,000 miles, it's not even close to needing a valve adjustment. I'm guessing someone did a valve adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, check the rest of them just to make sure. And of course, we want to get a new valve cover gasket because who knows, that one could be the original. And so we'll put a fresh gasket on there and reassemble the valve cover. I just finished the valve adjustment, and every single valve is actually in perfect adjustment. I mean, I haven't seen a more perfect valve adjustment on a car that's come in the shop. So Maybe that's the adjustment from the Mercedes factory, or maybe the owner already did a valve adjustment. I'm betting the original owner already did one, because they're all perfect. No adjustment needs to be made. So we just need to get a new valve cover gasket on and put our valve cover back on. Now, what I also want to do, it's clear to me this has been serviced, so I want to check the transmission fluid, take a look at it, and see if we even need to change the transmission fluid. Because the owner's nephew was telling me that the owner serviced the vehicle and changed the fluids every year. And this transmission fluid should be bright red. Oh, look at that. It's brand new. See how bright red the fluid is? Okay, so I'm definitely changing the oil. Just, you can never tell how old the oil is because it goes immediately black as soon as it goes in the engine. So we're definitely going to do that. I can see the coolant is also the correct coolant. So I want to go ahead and just top that off. It's just a little below the line. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll do an oil change, and I'm going to check that power steering fluid. And there's the correct coolant, the Zurex G05. And I know it's been changed because we're just having to top it off here. A little bit more. Okay, there we are. We're right there on the fill line. You can't see it because the coolant's actually the same color as the reservoir. Let's go check our power steering fluid, see what that looks like. Okay, I'm guessing that they changed the power steering fluid. We are going to check the filter. And let me just take a look at that fluid. Okay, that's fresh. That's good power steering fluid. Obviously, this car was regularly being serviced, even though it only has 10,000 miles on it. So I do want to remove the filter and take a look at that to see if they actually changed that filter. To get that out is just a 10 millimeter right here. And we'll go ahead and take that. Wow, everything looks so new on this, even the nut here. All right, we'll take our little spring-loaded retainer off here, and let's get that filter out. And we can do that with a little pair of pliers. You got to feel for the holes down in here. There we go. Okay, that is the original filter. So I'm going to go ahead and actually change that and put a fresh filter in there. All right, I do have my fluid extractor connected. I just want to extract the fluid and look down in the reservoir. See if it's clean down there. Yeah, the fluid is fresh. We're going to go ahead and fill it up with some fresh fluid anyway. Wow. Look how clean it is down in there. It's like brand new. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put a new filter in there and I'll put in some fresh fluid. Okay, here's the Hengst German-made filters I like to use. Let's go ahead and put one of these guys in there. And you can see how clean the new one is. All right, now let's put some fresh fluid in here. Now you notice the fluid that came out was a little golden brown, and I'm going to put back in the Dexmerk automatic transmission fluid, Dexron 3. And it's okay if that stuff mixes a little bit, it won't hurt anything. But you'll see that they're different colors. This is a bright red color. All right. There we go. That is topped off. Let's get our cap back on. All right, let's go ahead. Let's just do a quick oil change. Okay, before we do an oil change, I want to go ahead and put on our valve cover with our new valve cover gasket. And we have our new gasket right here. Let's go put it on the valve cover. Okay, so I'm not going to clean any of this Cosmoline off the valve cover just because I want to keep it, keep it all original. So we're going to go ahead and just put on our gasket here. And you just slowly got to work it around. I'll probably put this in a fast motion. Okay, there we go. We have our fresh gasket on. Now let's just go put this back on the car. Okay, there we go. Now we just want to check to make sure that gasket didn't roll over anywhere and has a good fit all the way around. Sometimes it'll roll over and get pinched on itself, and then your valve cover will leak, so especially here in the back. And this looks good. So let's go ahead and reattach our 13 millimeter nuts. Okay, we just want to run down the 13 millimeters, and you don't want to go crazy tight on these. It's only firm. You don't need to crank them down. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and reattach our throttle linkage. Also, if you remember when we were disassembling, this diesel return hose right here was too short. It was not routed correctly. It's supposed to be routed down here underneath your throttle linkage. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off and put back on a longer hose that's the correct length. So we'll go ahead and get some pliers and our needle nose and just twist this one off. There it goes. All right, we'll just connect some more hose down here. Now to get this to go on easy, I just put a little squirt of oil on here. And the rest of these lines, they look fine. So we're not going to replace those. We're just going to fix this one that was too short. So we'll just push that one on here. And you want it to go all the way down. Sometimes you grab some needle nose and just press it all the way down there. Okay, that's good. Now this one actually is meant to be routed down here below. So I'm going to cut it like right there. So we just put it on the valve cover and cut it to length right there. And now this is also a black line, so it matches the other ones. And the reason this one's longer is so you can easily get your valve cover off. The way it was routed before, you couldn't. And then this tucks around down here and clips into some little retainers. There we go. Like that. Now let's go ahead and start assembling our linkage. We'll just push this back here. Like so. There we go. That goes right through there. And then this mounts back here. Now we can attach our injection pump linkage right here. And to easily pop these on, I just use some channel locks. There we go. We got that one on. And we'll put this one up here. And then we'll attach this one up here. All right, there we go. Perfect. Now we'll reattach our cruise control and put all our clips back on here. First we put this little cotter pin back here against the firewall. And that slips in right back here. There we go. Now Mercedes has this really strange clip There you go. Let me show you guys this. It's a really strange looking clip they make. This slips over the front of the linkage here. There we go, right like that. And then we have a little E-clip. That slides in right there. And don't worry, if you drop it, you can order E-clips on Amazon, guys. I have a whole box of them. There we go. That just slid on right there. So our throttle linkage is reconnected there with our new hose right down here. There we go. And like I said, all this black hose here is it's good. I don't see it leaking at all. So let's go ahead and reattach our cruise control. And that was with the little 10mm nuts. I'm also gonna run this is the shutoff for the AC compressor. Run that up there. And we'll put our clip right back down in here. There we go. Okay, these are just little 10mm bolts that screw down in there. We'll get these all reconnected here. All right, there we go. That's all back together now. And we checked, we did the valve adjustment, even though it didn't need any valve adjustment. And we got a new valve cover gasket. Let's put our Bowden cable back through here. That controls your shift points on your transmission. Like that. And that's actually adjusted good. The mounts are good on our air filter housing. Don't need to change those mounts. Guys, I'm really not finding anything I need to do on this car. But I'm checking everything, just like I always do. All right. Now let's put our little retaining clip right back on there. Or the zip tie. This is where that original zip tie goes. All right, there we go. Okay, now let's go ahead and change the oil. Now the oil filter cap is two 13mm nuts, and sometimes the cap's a little tricky to get off. Sometimes it's tricky to get off because you have your coolant hose here and your vacuum lines over here, and sometimes you knock a vacuum line loose, so we'll get it off. All right, let's see here. We'll just move these vacuum lines out of the way and that coolant hose out of the way. There we go. Check that out. It still has a, it's like a oil change sticker, I guess, from the last time he serviced it. Okay. It says he serviced the oil like 900 miles ago. So we're going to go ahead and put some fresh oil in here. Okay, looks like our little O-ring stayed in place when we pulled off the filter cap. So we'll make sure to take that O-ring off. And we'll grab the handle, pull out our old filter. There we go. And guys, I like to use Hengst filters. They're made in Germany. There's your part number. You can use Mann or Hengst. I just like these because they're German made. And we'll just go ahead and stick our filter down in there. There we go. Now let's just get the cap back on. And with every filter, you get a crush washer for your pan gasket and a new little rubber O-ring. Here's our crush washer. We'll put that on later. And here's the O-ring. And I just like to put a little oil on that before I reinstall it. Lubricate it a little bit. There we go. All right, let's put this back on the car. Okay, like I said, sometimes these are tricky to get back on there because all the lines. Let's see if this one's going to fight us at all. Let's move our vacuum lines out of the way. Let's move our hose out of the way. There we go. Hey, that one just went right on there. Cool. And you don't want to crank these nuts down. They're 13 millimeter nuts, and you just want to, I don't know, 10 foot-pounds or so. The gasket does all the work. Otherwise, if you crank them down, you're going to pull your studs out, because these are just pressed in studs that they go on. So, you don't need to put 40 foot-pounds on these things. All right, there we go, just snug. That's it, that's all you want to do. All right, let's get this thing up in the air and drain the old oil. Now I'm going to just take a quick look, because I was working right back here, make sure I didn't knock any vacuum lines loose. Sometimes you do that, and they're all intact. Everything's good. All right, let's get it up in the air. Guys, just look how amazing it all looks in here. I mean, it looks brand new. That's what they look like with only 10,000 miles. It's just immaculate. Anyway, let's go ahead and get our oil pan bolt out of here. And while this is draining, we're going to go ahead and go to the rear of the car and drain the diff fluid and change that, because I bet that's 40 years old. Guys, check that out. Even the differential looks amazing. Hey, look, all the original paint is back here. Everything on this car is just incredible. First, we want to make sure we can get the fill tube, or the fill plug, undone. Yep, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and drain this stuff out of here. I guarantee this has not been changed, but we will find out. All right, let's see what this oil looks like. This is just 80W90 gear oil. Even the gear oil back here looks amazing. Wow. I probably didn't even need to change that. That's crazy. All right, whatever. I don't know how old it is, so we're putting in fresh fluid, but it looks fantastic. All right, we'll let that drain out, then put our plug back in, and just put some 80W90 regular old dinosaur gear oil in there. All right, let's get our plug back in there, wipe everything off a little, and get this refilled. All right, guys, this is what you need to use. This is just regular old Napa Premium Performance gear oil, 80W90. You don't need to spend a lot of money on any kind of fancy gear oil back here, guys. This is about as basic as it gets. And you just want to pump it in until it starts to come out of the fill hole. And that's when you know that it's full. So this will take a minute. Here it comes. All right, I'd say that's perfect timing. All right, that's gonna start coming out, and we put our cap back on. And there we go. That's how you know your diff is full. Just wipe that off. Then we'll tighten down our fill plug here. Okay, you can see we have a new copper crush washer that came with the oil filter. You always want to replace that. Now, you can reuse them a couple of times. Just flip them over. But since you get a new one every time you get an oil filter, you might as well go ahead and change it. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and put some fresh oil in here. All right, let's go ahead, put in our oil, and it doesn't take quite 2 gallons, but also this is the oil I've started using. It is made by Lubrication Engineers. I'll put Clay Cox's contact information. You can get in touch with him and you'll get a discount if you mention Woods and Barclay. But this is the stuff. I use this in the engine. We also use their transmission fluid in the race car. And it was just very, very good stuff. So if you can run it in a race car, a road car is going to be no problem. And I've been really happy with this. They're kind of a boutique lubrication company, and they make an outstanding product. This is for diesel engines, 15W40. Monolith is the additives, what they call their additives. You can go look it up online. And here's all of Clay's contact information. Now, like I said, it takes about, I don't know, close to 2 gallons. But I'll put in most of this, and then we'll crank up the car, let the oil circulate through the engine, and then we'll let it sit for like 10 minutes before we top it off. Okay, you can see the oil is right there at the bottom marker. We want to be between the two. So I'll add a little bit more, and then I'm going to fire up the engine, let it circulate, and then we'll let it sit for about 10 minutes and settle back down, and then we'll top it off. I can tell we need to change the OVP relay. See, the RPM didn't respond, and that is always because of the OVP relay. That's a very common problem, so we'll go ahead and address that next. Okay, let me show you what an OVP relay looks like. I keep a lot of them in stock over here. Here we go. This is an OVP relay that controls your tachometer. You can see there's a 10 amp fuse. So first thing we want to do is check the fuse in the car, make sure it's just not a fuse that's blown. But if the relay is stuck, then we can remove it and install one of these good relays. So let me show you how to access that. Okay, I don't know how good a view this is going to be, but we're over here on the passenger side of the car, and the OVP relay is right under the kick panel, right up top there. So we got to remove our little clips here that cover up the screws. See, there's these little plastic retaining clips that cover the Phillips head screws, and then we need to get our kick panel out of here. Now I'll go ahead and just remove the 3 screws that hold this kick panel under here. And then there's also a screw down here. All right, then we can pull this panel down. Okay, let me show you where this is. All right, we're not gonna bother removing the panel out of the car because right there is our OVP relay, and we need to pull it out of this socket. So to do that, I'm just going to reach under here. There we go. There's the OVP relay. And I can tell the reason it's not working is right there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yep, there we go. See, the fuse popped. So let's go ahead and change the fuse. That probably happened when someone was changing a battery or charging a battery, something like that. Who knows? So let's just change the fuse and put it right back in here. All right, excuse the mess on my bench. I was troubleshooting some lamp assemblies earlier. That was for a different car. But here's our OVP relay. We're just going to pull out our fuse. Yep, sure enough. Right there. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that. And there you go. See how that fuse is popped right there? So I'm just going to grab one of my other relays and steal the fuse out of it. There we go. And this fuse is good. Just confirmed it. And we'll just slip this back in here. And let's pop this back in the car. Maybe it was that simple. Okay. We got our relay back in there. All right, before we put all our clips back on there, let's check out, see if the RPMs come back to life here. Might take a second for the relay to pop loose. Oh, there we go. Boom. See? There we go. We now have good RPMs again. Okay, awesome. Before we do a final top off on the oil, I want to check this original AC system. And I think this is still R12. Let me get some pliers to get that cap off there. It's on there a little snug. There we go. Yeah, good. This is still original R12, and I have a ton of R12 over there on the shelf. And I bet you this R12 system is absolutely fine. Right now, I just want to check to see if we have any refrigerant in there. Because if we do, I want to flush the system. Okay, no. So it's been sitting, and see, there's no refrigerant. That's a what do you call it? It's like a bicycle tire, a Zerk fitting. I forget the name. Anyway, somebody tell me in the comments, but you can just press it down with a screwdriver. And if there was gas in there, it'd come spraying out everywhere. And this system is totally empty. So we're going to recharge this with R12, and I bet you that AC is going to work fantastic. A Schrader valve, that's what it's called, a Schrader valve. Okay, it's time to service the AC. So what we have here, this is ester oil. This is compatible with the mineral oil that comes in R12 systems. It's also compatible with R134 PAG oil. So this is a nice oil you can use in either systems. Now, for systems that the oil has leaked out of, R12, for systems that the Freon has leaked out of, the oil is still in the system. However, when you leak out your Freon, from experience, I've found that it leaks out about an ounce of oil with it. The systems hold about 6 ounces of oil. So when I recharge and untampered with, this has not been messed with, and when I recharge one of these original R12 systems that's gone flat, I'll put in 1 ounce of oil because that system has a ton of that oil still left in it. So I'll go ahead and top it off with just 1 ounce of oil. That's always a good practice. But before we add oil and refrigerant, we want to put the system under a vacuum and let it sit overnight. We're going to hook up our vacuum gauges. We're going to draw it down to negative 30 inches of mercury, and we're going to let it sit overnight. And if that system does not leak down overnight, we know that there's no leaks in it, and it's going to take a charge. So if there's leaks, we're going to have to find where the leaks are coming from and fix it. So let's go ahead and get all that hooked up. Now, before I do the vacuum test, here's where I keep the R12. And guys, this stuff is readily available. You can just go on Craigslist and if you're in the Southeast United States, you can literally find it everywhere. They made billions and billions of cans of this stuff. This is the good stuff, DuPont Freon. And it takes about 3 cans. And you can see I've got there's like 10 boxes of the stuff back here. Let's see, that's a 14 ounce. And I'll show you how much we know to put in there. And what is that one? That's a 14 ounce. All right, so if you look at your sticker on your core support, it says for the 123, there you go, 123 and 126 take 2.9 pounds. So let me do the math here. 14 ounces is a can. Okay, so the math, 14 ounces, 14 times 3 is 42 ounces, and then 42 divided by 16 ounces a pound is 2.625. Now it takes 2.9, but guys, 3 cans is what it takes. You put in 3 cans of this stuff, you're going to be absolutely fine. Sometimes I'll take a 4th can and try to get in that 0.25 of an ounce more or whatever it was. But 3 cans is absolutely fine. Your system will work great. You don't have to get exactly 2.9 pounds. 2.7, 2.65 will work perfect. All right, we've got our genuine DuPont Freon. We're going to do 1 ounce of the oil. Now to do the oil, I have an oil injector right here. Let me show you how that works. All right, our oil injector just unscrews like this, and it's got graduated measurements on the side. Let's get our top screwed off. Well, let's just go down to 1 ounce here. Let's see, 1/2 ounce. There we go. That is 1 ounce. So we're just going to add 1 ounce because, like I said, this system has not been opened. It hasn't been tampered with, and we already have oil in the system. That's just how it is. The oil does not evaporate out of the system or leak out of the system. However, when your refrigerant leaks out, it'll leak out a little oil that's mixed with it. You'll lose about 1 ounce. So we're just going to put in 1 ounce when we recharge it. And guys, this is not like an exact science. You do not have to get the numbers absolutely 100% correct on your AC. Just get it close to the specifications and your AC is going to work fine. I know some guys may rip me apart in the comments, but I've done this a lot. I've been doing this for years, and what I said is the truth. Okay, so we'll screw our cap on right there. And we do have dye in this oil. That's why it's green, so we can check for leaks. All right, let's go ahead, put the system under a vacuum. Okay, I have the gauges connected to our low pressure port. And down here, you can see it goes down to the high pressure port. And then high pressure is always red, low pressure is blue. And then yellow goes to our vacuum pump. Now, this might be hard to see on these gauges, but you can see vacuum. Well, there we are. We're at 0 right now. And then see it says INHG. That's inches of mercury or inches of vacuum. So when we put the vacuum pump on, we're going to see these dials go down to 30, negative 30. All right, there we go. It's sucking. And it's slowly going to go down a little more than that. Gets to like 28 or so. And we're putting the system under a vacuum. So I'm going to let this run under vacuum for 30 or 45 minutes. That'll get any moisture out of the system, because moisture that will boil under a vacuum, it'll boil out. And then we're going to shut our valves off and let it sit and come back and check it later to see if we've lost any vacuum pressure. All right, while our vacuum pump is running, we'll do a final oil check. Make sure we got our levels right. And there we go. Perfect. We are just shy of the top mark. That's exactly where you want it. All right, so we are done with all the fluids and filters. Let's move on to this AC. Okay, you can see we're getting, let's see, it's pretty close to the negative 30 mark. We're like negative 28, negative 29. We'll let that run for a little while longer, and then we'll shut off these valves and turn off the vacuum pump and let that sit overnight before coming back to check if there's any vacuum leaks. Close off my gauges here, or close off my connections here. There we go. And we'll turn off the vacuum pump. Okay, so we are, let me turn off the light. Okay, we're right there, like negative 28 or so, in between the last bar and that bar before it. All right, so we'll let this sit overnight and come back in the morning. And if that's still in the exact same spot, we have no leaks. Okay, guys, here we are the next day. And we can see, let's get over here. There we go. We're right there at negative 28, 29. We're exactly at the same spot. And this has been sitting overnight. We have not leaked anything at all. So let's go ahead and recharge this system. All right, we're going to start recharging the system. And one of my mentors, an old Mercedes mechanic, taught me to fill up a pot with some hot water, just regular tap water. And then when you're filling the car, you can put the can of R12 in here, and it warms it up and helps it to evaporate out of the can quicker. So we're going to put that on the front of the car, and we're going to go ahead and connect our R12 here. Now, to do this, we want to go ahead and crank the car and put the AC on high. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, now we want to purge the air out of the line here. All right, we are ready to put in our refrigerant. And we're waiting to hear the AC compressor kick on once our refrigerant level gets high enough. Okay, we're on the third can, and if you look at the sight glass, you can see the refrigerant still going in there. So we're gonna let that go in. But I heard the compressor kick on, and we should be getting cold by now. Yep, there we go. It's getting cold again. Let me go ahead and get a temperature gauge, a thermometer, a temperature gauge. All right, we will stick this in the vent. And we'll see what temperature this drops down to. Okay, you can see green. See where it has a green mark right there? The green is where we want to be. So let's let that sit in there for a minute. And we'll let this can keep going. And I will come back in a second. Okay, the AC compressor auxiliary fan, the AC system auxiliary fan just correctly kicked on. Let's go see if our temperature has dropped down. Okay, see, we're getting close to the green. We're about 45 degrees right now, and this should go to about 39 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and finish charging it here. All right, our third can is almost empty. It's about empty. Okay, we're down to like 40, 42 degrees. Excellent. Let me let this run and circulate through the system for a minute. And just so we can get to that exact 2.9 pounds, I'm going to grab one more can and just put a little bit more in there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and close it off there. And we're going to check our temperature. Alright, mission accomplished. I don't know if you guys can see that. We're like 41, 42 degrees, and actually when I drive the car, that's going to drop a little more once we get that compressor spinning up and the system operating at max efficiency. Mission accomplished. Original R12 system is back to life. Okay, that wraps it up for this video. The AC is working fantastic. Got it all charged up with R12. So mission accomplished there. I knew it was going to come back to life. The old R12 systems always come back to life. But anyway, the next video is going to be the power antenna. I need to take that out and install a new antenna mast. And then it's over to Scott for detailing. And then this car will be ready. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.